pleasure to introduce Melissa Steech. I check first names, but not last names, and I really should, who works at Herman Miller, and she is going to talk about human factors and ergonomics, something I know very little about, so I'm really excited. So I'll just hand it right over to Melissa. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I grew up in Alabama, so if any of you have the itis, do any of you know what the itis is? The itis is that really drowsy feeling that sets in right after a big meal, especially in the South because it's muggy. So because I am a licensed ergonomist, if any of you start to feel the itis, stand up, stretch it out, it's all good. Just make sure your neighbors can see. I am really excited to be here to talk about something that I believe in very strongly, which is that compassion and beauty are intricately linked to positive work outcomes. And you know, like I said, I was raised in Alabama, and my mom's a total gypsy mom. She's got like a lotus blossom tattoo to her palm. She dreams of getting an Airstream or having a tent, and my brother and I just make sure we always pay the cell phone bill to keep up with her. But we lived everywhere. We've lived in cars, we've lived in tents, we've lived in the housing projects, and then as an adult, I've lived in Beverly Hills and decorated there at penthouses, and then I've also lived in flats in the countryside of South Korea. Along with all of that moving and that kind of gypsy lifestyle, I've had a lot of different jobs, worked in a lot of industries, and began to really understand and really respect from all of these experiences the built environment's ability to really engage us, to empower us, to really shape us, really, in a way that is quite profound, and that I think until very recently we took for granted to some respect. So what does all of this have to do with compassion? Well, compassion is about, well, let me first pull up an analogy. So imagine that you are the red balloon, right? Work's going really well for you. I mean, you're a red balloon, for God's sakes. Of course it's going really well for you. Your coworker is the glass. Now, the difference between compassion and empathy is that empathy says, hey, glass, really sucks to be half empty. You know what that's like? Gotta go, got a big date, bye. Out the door. You know what it feels like, you've been in their shoes, but you're on about your day. Compassion says, hey, glass, how do I help you fill up? What do I do to stay here and make life easier so that we can both get out of work on time? So compassion is really not only about being able to put yourself in someone's shoes and recognize their state of mind, and not only your state of mind, but theirs as well, but it's that impetus to want to ameliorate that suffering that you see, to really do something, right? That's the difference between compassion and empathy. And so what we want to do, and I'm going to look at my notes sometimes, I go back and forth here, we want to be sure that we don't confuse, and I say this a lot as an IO psychologist, we confuse a lot compassion with kind of, I'm going to tell you what to do, or strategy. And the difference between compassion and coercion comes in, and I know I'm coming up with a lot of things, but sometimes people will come back and say, well, hey, I don't see a lot of compassion in work, you know, it's all about me, 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 or I'm not going to succeed, what's wrong with me being ambitious? There's nothing wrong with that, but if you are going in as a change agent to an organization, or you're doing something like from a design perspective, you're changing up the floor plan, if you don't come in with an open hand, offering help, but come in with a closed fist like, this is the strategy and this is what we're going to do, that all of a sudden what you think is compassion is really becoming coercion. And I think we can all agree that compassion and not coercion is what you want in business. Now, if we think of the workplace as a manifestation of 3 different constructs to get to the culture, we have the built environment, which is the why, how, and where. It's basically the doing of the business, how we do that business. The human environment addresses the physical, cognitive, and social. Those are the implications and impacts on the people who are doing the business. Now, the intangible environment addresses mind, body, and soul. Basically, it's how we feel about the aesthetics that imbue the business. And for me, the intangibles are the magic, right? This is that gut check that basically, And it's funny because on one hand, I'm a researcher, and on the other hand, I'm a trained fine artist. And there are these things that just cannot be quantified in data. We know that we get the data wrong all the time. I mean, how many of us have been surprised by politics this last year? You know, data overload, we got it wrong, right? So this gut check is that thing that we all know when we see it. Yes, that's it. Yes, that feels right. And this is the thing that we always need to check back into, whether we're doing, you know, it's our relationships in business or at home. And this is something we've all experienced. We know this. It's just, why don't we employ it? Now, if we were to employ design as a change agent, and a few of the presentations today I talked about change agents and change and movement and design, and it's really great. And if we were to think that, okay, design is our change agent, and we're going to bring about compassion in the workplace, we would ask three things. The first is, what drives your people? What are their ergonomic needs? And what is the organization's desired future state? Because it's not just about the individual, it's also about the collective, and it's not just about the collective, right? People make up systems, but systems are not necessarily people. Now, if we start with people, I mean, let's think about it. I know sometimes I've always acted like I'm an island unto myself, but we need each other, right? You're sending a text, your smartphone is not going to say, hey, fool, you're about to walk into oncoming traffic, right? But another human being will reach out and stop you from doing that. So the old adage that says nice guys finish last probably exists because in a lot of ways that seems to be the truth. But have any of you read Adam Grant's book? It's kind of been around now for a while, but give and take. Any of you are familiar with it? So he talks about givers and takers, and then there's matchers. So the givers are the people who just give. They're the compassionate ones. And they're the ones who will be the nice guys who are finishing last. And what he found in his research is that while givers are predominantly, are the majority at the bottom rung of the success ladder, over the long term, they're also overly represented on the top rung of the success ladder. So your takers, the people who are all about them, maybe the more empathetic and less compassionate ones, over the long term of a career, they start out really fast, but they end up petering out somewhere around the middle. Because by this time in a long-term career, people know what's up. They're like, oh, Joe, he can't really be trusted. He gets it done really fast, but boy, he's going to burn you. Give him enough time. So word gets around, people get to know you, and at some point that stops. But those people, those givers who seem to start out so slow, they come back up because as they grow and as their reputation grows for good work, for compassion, for really being there in a pinch, they have a chance to shine later on. Now, being a giver is also an asset, since at most companies work gets done through relationships. And these relationships can either be informal, like friendships, or they can be formal, like teams. They're very important because every time I see Sarah passing in the hallway, I'm more likely to trust Sarah, even though maybe I don't even know you, but I feel like I know you. So that familiarity is very important. And the good news is not only for the team members, but for also for the team leaders. So for instance, if you have something like an open floor plan, you have a lot of various opportunities to see people and to see what people are up to. And this is especially important for the boss because what we found through science is that when compassion is modeled by leaders, it increases organizational citizenship behavior, or OCB. Now, OCB is essentially, are you guys familiar with OCB? Because I can get a little nerdy. Okay. OCB is, let me think. So take, for instance, all the times that if you're salaried, all those times that you worked weekends knowing that you wouldn't get paid. That's really strong organizational citizenship behavior. You are a citizen of that organization. You believe in that message. You're going to get the job done, right? You're not going to pay so much attention to whether or not you're getting paid. On the other end, when OCB is not at its strongest, you are that disgruntled employee who steals the staplers and reams of paper and whatever else you can get because screw them, they get enough of my time and I need something back. So that would be negative OCB, all right? All right, maybe I'm the only janky person up here. I know somebody else in here stole a stapler, I'm just saying, but I mean, come on. All right. Now, another advantage, and this is a setting, in this setting we would call these plazas. So another great thing about certain settings is that they support social engagement between work teams that might not otherwise cross. And what we've also found is that research shows that likability and ethics are highly desirable personality traits by organizations looking to promote its people. So if you're someone who thinks yourself likable and ethical, get out there in some public spots in the workplace and be seen in action, because these are traits that companies are looking for. You guys not so ethical or likable? I'm joking. All right, so now another great thing about the way that we design for space and for teams is that helping is also contagious. So there's a phenomenon in social psychology called elevation. And essentially it says that when I see my boss being helpful, being compassionate, and really going out of their way to do something that they otherwise don't have to do, I feel more inclined to do the same. Again, it goes back to the leaders in their place really being able to model the behavior. And when I talk about leaders, it's an interesting thing for me, especially from an ergonomics point of view. There are, at this point, the stats were that by 2020 there would be 5 generations of people in the workplace. But the truth is that it's already happening. So a leader could be that admin assistant who's been with the company for 20 years and knows it like the back of their hand. And they are completely committed to the vision and the mission, and they just welcome everybody with a big bear hug, and they have that tacit knowledge that just can't be replaced by a degree. No matter how hot you were in school, how smart you think you are, there are certain things that just only are really learned and developed over time. So sometimes in organizations we overlook who the leaders might be because we're attached to the title. So now if we want to think about why we give a shit about compassion and how it counts in business, you want to think of win-win from a compassionate point of view. What is it that I'm doing that can really help the organization, and in time it will help you. And we're all existentialists. I don't think there's, maybe I'm speaking out of turn. I am an existentialist, and I know that at some point, whatever I do will probably come back around, right? We want to know that helping is contagious. We want to remember that compassion can be modeled by leaders, that likability and ethics are promotable, and that familiarity breeds friendship. Now, if we circle back to design as our change agent for compassion in the workplace, what are your team's ergonomic needs? Now, since planning and workflow of teams, we've found that space planning and the workflow of teams are strongly connected. And in this example, you see that the workplace is arranged in settings that support fluid improvisational movements. And these are usually characteristics that are seen in high-performing teams. And right here we see that the people in the space, they're accessible, and so they're probably more open to give and receive increased levels of both non-verbal and verbal support. And we've also looked at the effects that social support, how connected employees feel with their companies on physical strain, the actual physical pain and discomfort that they feel, are found in regard to a high social support. And this diagram can be a little confusing because it seems flipped, but it's not. So basically what it shows us is that if you feel that you are highly supported socially in your organization, at least your perception of what your physical pain is goes down by about 30%, right? But if you feel that you're not very well supported at your organization, and this can be from a team point of view, maybe your teammates, you feel they're slacking off, they're doing some social loafing that you're not a fan of, or you really want a sit-to-stand desk and a great chair. It can come in a myriad of ways, both tangibly and intangibly, but your perception of your physical strain increases. Also, discomfort can come in the form of cognitive dissonance brought on by misaligning color with work tasks. It's been found to have negative impacts on stress and to also cause depression if not suitable for the workplace or its activities. So something that's good to think about are hospitals. Very long, very focused hours. We think about how little doctors and nurses sleep, how intense the work is that they do. It's also very calming for patients. Colors like yellow, if we think of grade schools, which God bless those teachers, you've got little kids like bouncing off the walls. it really stimulates creativity. It may, on the other hand, bring out a little chaos, but it's good because these little creatures need to get out there and create. And then colors like red, I always think of manufacturing. I think of lean, I think of Kaizen, I think of getting it done effectively, efficiently, on time, and out the door. Keep it moving. And now of all interior design elements, and I've been doing, right now, working on some research about sit to stand, because the research only goes back to about 10 years now. But of all the different ergonomic designs or interventions that you can include in the workplace, sit-stand is being seen to have the most impact. And it goes across genders and various generations. And the impact is not only on the individual's physical state in terms of them feeling better, and this isn't about standing up 2 hours. This is about sitting, standing, moving about the place. It has a cognitive effect, it has a physical effect, and increases social engagement, and then it also increases our productivity. There are studies that show that when sit-stand is available for use and people are trained on using them and use them properly, that their productivity goes up and that their rate of error goes down. And so when we consider that we're sitting basically today over the last 50 years, sedentary work has increased by 80%. That's pretty bananas, if you think about it. You know, we're not doing the hard physical labor that maybe we did during the Industrial Revolution, but now we're doing those really minor sedentary tasks that really build up over time because we don't really think that we're destroying our backs by typing on the computer, right? But then one day, it just tweaks. So we want to be sure that we're considering what we're providing to our employees, what kind of tools we're giving them, so that we can think of their health and of their productivity for us down the road. And in fact, when we think in terms of what's spent, U.S. companies have lose an estimated $7.4 billion on back pain alone, which is pretty staggering, the stats on that. Nurses are the highest group of this, with admins following behind. Another interesting thing is that most people with back injuries are 45 years or younger. So this is not an old man's game. You know, that's always kind of like the idea, oh, my back hurts. Maybe I'm stereotyping, I don't mean to offend anyone. But you know, that sometimes I think that was kind of the old joke. Well, now we're looking at both genders, we're looking at all types of people, all types of work, because we're all tied to a computer or hunched over an iPhone some kind of way. And this is causing most of us to have back problems. 47% of office workers have some sort of doing the work related to computers. 91% have computer vision syndrome. I don't know if you've ever had that. I had it for a while with my left eye where it just like was always jumping and watering to the point where it was red, and it's just not fun, right? Glasses fix that up, but now I need my glasses all the damn time. By age 60, our eyes need about 3 times the light they did at 20. So it doesn't matter that you have 20/20 vision, you still need twice as much light at 40 as you did at 20. So any of you pulling out your cell phones or reading the menus in the restaurant, I have since become that person. That's me. I was like, well, there I am. By 60, I'll be blind, but I'm working on a plan right now. 8 out of 10 workers experience back pain at some point. And here's the interesting thing. If we were to spend just $1 up front on an ergonomic intervention, we would yield a return of $17.50. That's substantial. This is where a lot of the organizational leaders sit up and go, whoa. So it's not just a passing fad. It is not a fad. It's important. So when we think about why do we, give a shit about compassionate design, we want to think about a living office. We want to think about bringing it to life. I'm not talking about technology here because it just gets big enough. There's so much that we could drill down into. But we want to think about how the space is moving, how it's supporting us, how it's getting us around. We want to think about that, high social support adds up physically. Ergonomic design really affects work the most in terms of our ability to do it and do it well. Colors do have an impact. And remember that for every dollar you spend in an ergonomic intervention, you'll get back $17.50 in ROI. So then our final question, and when using design as a change agent for bringing compassion to the workplace, is what is the organization's desired future state? For example, do you want to attract and retain talent for the long term? Or do you want high turnover for kind of fast, fresh ideas? There are some companies that have that model too. Either one is fine, but just really know what your long-term agenda is. Now, according to a poll by Gallup, close friendships at work boost employee satisfaction by 50%. And people with the best friend at work are 7 times more likely to engage fully in their work. So going back to setting up spaces where people can commune and feel that they have a sense of community, it may be intangible in terms of in the idea that can you really attach a dollar amount to how much time Sally spends at the water cooler? Maybe not, but the studies showed that the likelihood that Sally and Jim have a really close bond and they spend that 5 minutes every morning checking in before they get about the day means that they're probably 7 times more likely to stay at their job and be engaged. I mean, how many of us have ever been at work and been totally not there, right? And I think that's changing now because companies are allowing for more flexibility, but those models do still exist. Now, workplaces that encourage social interaction foster this type of relationship building, and the bonds, like we say, they bring down absenteeism, presenteeism, they support employee productivity and self-efficacy with having a workplace that really reflects their unique contribution and their importance to the organization. So this is like, you know, it all comes down to being part of a club, right? We're all such pack animals. You know, your work, we spend most of our time at work. It's our team, whether we like it or not. We may hate our team, but until we get on a new team, that's the team that we love to hate, right? So it's really important to remind yourself that your work is really a reflection of you and vice versa. Now, over a 10-year period, companies who focus on their culture see an ROI 3 times that of companies in the S&P 500. And here, I haven't been calling out some of these pictures, but Harry's is a great example of a company that recognized their space was not functionally supporting their team, but they also had no real evidence of their unique culture. So when they would go into work even, it was like, this doesn't really feel like us. So we really worked with them to develop a space that was reflective of them, that they could get excited about and feel like they belonged to. So in the old space, they had 3 settings, kind of, you know, the kitchen, the workroom, and just kind of like a little side quiet area. Afterwards, we got that up to about 7 spaces, 7 settings that were all used in different capacities. And this change increased employees' feelings of satisfaction, on productivity, their satisfaction with impromptu meetings and how those were organized, and their work tasks supported by an average of 48% across the board. And that was literally just taking the space and reorganizing it and giving it different sorts of, giving the space even really a task. Like, this space is going to support this, and this space is going to allow people to feel good about hanging out here. Now, for culture to thrive, it's important to support employee activity and really be sure that we understand that compassion counts toward the bottom line and that $200 billion are lost to HR-related cost. That focus on culture yields 3 times ROI over a 10-year period. Stress can make work physically harder. Work friendships boost employee satisfaction. And VOI, which is the value on investment in tangibles, matter. So all of these little things really do add up, and it's good to keep that in mind. So with this, I'm going to show you guys a quick video from Herman Miller. Are you familiar with the new Aeron chair? So this is a situation where there are over 7 billion in the world. They're at the Smithsonian, there's one at the Smithsonian, there's one at the Museum of Modern Art. There was really no need to redo it, except that Herman Miller gave a shit to go, hey, in 22 years, people's bodies have not changed, but technology has, and we can do a better job with this iconic chair in supporting people with what they do every day for most of their day. So in closing, work is a holistic experience encompassing our minds, our bodies, and our relationships, and as such, really requires compassion to be truly successful. Thank you.